Welcome!
Welcome
To Keeping Friendship Magic, the odd pony out. I will try my darndest not to block the screen, and whoever put odds on how long my OC could stay on my shoulder, you might want to pay up, because it didn't last very long. Alright, so for those of you who haven't been to one of my panels before, my name is Forward Progress, which if I held my badge right, you could see that. I'm a social scientist and brony, if you couldn't tell, you know. So what I love about this show is how it's brought this community together, and I feel it's in a very unique way as opposed to other fandoms. So what I've been doing is I've been taking a look at the lessons from the show, the things that we've done as a community, and combined it with real-world social science, things like sociology, psychology. You all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. And in an effort to say, hey, this isn't just what's on the show. We can take these lessons and really bring them to life in the real world. And this is a movement. We're not just a fandom, in my opinion. We are a social movement. We have a belief in friendship, in magic, that is going to hopefully one day change the world. I hope. So that's my belief. I believe that bronies are a sign of a changing world, but it's really up to us to make sure that that change actually comes to fruition. We have the power, as I said yesterday. Insert He-Man joke here. So we have the power to really make a change, and I'd love to see us do that. So, I mean, what do you guys think? You guys think bronies can change the world?
Yeah.
Yes! Yeah. Yes was the correct answer. Thank you. You all got 100 on your quiz. So, all right. So we're going to talk about the odd pony out. What we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the actual science behind how we make friends. And we're going to talk a little bit about barriers to that friendship. Kind of the odd pony out. The odd pony that's kind of that one in the corner that you're not really sure and you want to be there for them but you can't figure them out. We're going to talk about those characters today. So let's kick it off, shall we? Kick it off with a good friend of mine. At some point. And sound.
We lost sound.
We just lost sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just did. Because lips say, if they start moving their lips and there's no sound coming off of it.
Or it's plugged in.
It's plugged in. I didn't change anything since we last did it.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's really fascinating, isn't it, girls?
Did everybody know what sedimentary rock was before this episode?
Yes, actually.
We don't take stupidity for granted.
I am not touching that one. Alright, so Mod Pie really is the perfect example to demonstrate how and why we make the friends that we do. So to further demonstrate, I'd like to do a little exercise. This is the audience participation part of the program.
Yay!
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 Alright, so how many people can we do? Okay, can every pony make a group of, let's say, 3? Make a group of 3.
Alright, we're 3.
It doesn't have to be 3 exactly, but at least 3. Let's try that.
Okay, should we look like you want to be
You can have Ethan on the water.
All right. We good? Raise your hand if you actually got up and moved chairs. You did not move!
What?
Okay, who all did? Wait, okay. So actually, no, who actually moved? Okay, those of you who moved, and I'm gonna grab a couple of you. So, why did you move?
To engage the others.
Any others? Yay? Nay? Yes, sir. Okay. We're going to talk about proximity. How many of you made your group by whoever was sitting next to you? Congratulations! You just proved science.
Yay, science.
When we make friends, we tend to make friends who are closer to us. Think about when this happened to you in school. When you had to make a lab partner, when you had to make a partner on a group assignment, how many of you turned to the person next to you and went, hey, you want to do this? I see a lot of nods. Yep. That's what we do.
I always pick the leftovers.
Oh, I got picked last.
The leftovers, and whoever got me got me.
Does that mean that it was the best because you saved the best for last?
Maybe.
Ah.
I did all the work, so.
I will give you a big hug after this, girl. Because everybody deserves to be included.
Not me.
What you choose to do, sir. All right, most to us. You know, the people that you are at best odds to make friendships with are the people close to you. Who is the closest person to Maud Pie when we meet her? Pinkie Pie. Why? She's her sister. She lives with her, or lived in this case. But Pinkie wants so badly for Maud to make friends with her friends and the remainder of the main six. She brought her from the rock farm to Ponyville for this purpose. It's not so easy, is it? It's not so easy to just grab somebody, throw them in a new environment, and be like, hey, make friends. Sounds like another pony I know. Starlight Pony. So that's number one. We are more inclined to make friends with those who, like your neighbors, the people living in your neighborhood, your person sitting next to you in class. It's one of those things. When you walked into class on day one, whatever class, high school, college, doesn't matter. How many of you just sit down, and how many of you take a moment and scan the room first and be like, do I know them? Have I seen them before? Are they familiar? Exactly, we all do that. It's a matter of who's close to us. So think about that next time you do something. Because a lot of times, and I can talk about this from personal experience, I was that kid, I mean, granted, I was an overachiever, I'm not gonna lie. I was a super nerdy kid. I'm still a super nerdy adult, too. But, nerd pride in the house. So, what we do, I would go in, and I was sitting in the front row. And, you know, I don't know if it's as much these days, you know. I haven't been in high school in like 15 years, so forgive me. But when I was in high school, those were the kids that got picked on. Those were the nerds. Those were the dweebs, you know. They weren't the cool kids. I was not necessarily the people that, like, you know, you wanted to make partners with, that you would come up to day one and be like, oh, you're here, I want to sit next to you. And therefore, a lot of times that desk next to me was empty. And I had a lot of friendship to give, but not a lot of people paid attention to me. This is not a sob story, by the way. I'm very happy with my life now, as much as it will sound like I'm not, but I really am. So it's one of those things. Think about that, because look at how many different types of people we end up getting in this fandom. It is all genders, all ages, all races. You name the category, we can find it in this fandom. My local pony group, we range from teenagers to people in their 50s. Love this. And you know what? We get together and we all get along, we all hang out, and you know what it is? We have that unifying factor. So, a couple other things with making friends. The mere exposure effect. The fact that you get to see someone more. Kind of what I talked about a little bit ago, is that when you walk into that room and you see that person that you've been exposed to before, you are more likely to sit next to them. And it doesn't even mean that you were already friends with them. Let's say you have, I attend college, so let's say I have a class in the morning with somebody, and then I get to my second class, and they're in that one too. Chances are pretty good I'm going to try to sit near them, because now we have even more in common. Speaking of having things in common, similarity. We look for people who are like us. We look for people who have similar interests, similar tastes. I mean, let's face it, we all know we like Pony. It makes it a little easier to get along, I think. So, looking for some Pony similar. I know a group of girls that we've seen in the show that have some similarities that brought them together.
Wow, that is an amazing cutie mark. Nice try. Blank flank. Blank flank. You got a problem with blank flanks?
Dang, Scootaloo!
You got a problem with blank flanks? The problem is, it means she's like totally not special. No, it means she's full of potential. It means she could be great at anything. The possibilities are, like, endless. She could be a great scientist, or an amazing artist, or a famous writer. She could even be mayor of Ponyville someday. And she's not stuck being stuck up like you two. Hey, this is my party. Why are you two on her side? Because... You don't have your cutie marks either? I thought I was the only one. We thought we were the only two.
You know what's funny to me? When I watched Crusaders of the Lost Mark, how many ponies in that class don't have cutie marks now? Just saying.
One apparently like Pipsqueak.
So, what we're going to talk about here with similarity is something called social comparison theory by a man named Leon Festinger, developed it, I believe, in the 1970s. I could be wrong on those dates. What brought them together is the fact that they had that similarity. They had that common bond that all of them were blank flanks. None of them had their cutie mark. It's what united them to become the Crusaders. Because, as was said in here, the possibilities that they could explore together are, like, endless. And the bottom line is what we do constantly is we are comparing ourselves to the world around us. We need to form an opinion about ourselves from a very young age. We need to figure out where we stand in the world. And the only way to do that is to take a look at the world around us and figure out where we fit into it. And the way we do that is we compare. We're not always doing it consciously. A lot of it's subconsciously. Because you're not really thinking when you're a baby about comparing yourself to a tree and figuring out if you're the same thing. Unless you're Fluttershy. Okay, so in this instance, what you're going to do with making friends is you're going to find ponies, people, that are more similar to you that you can compare yourself with and get on the same level with. So what we try not to do so much is we try not to get ourselves in positions where we feel like our comparison to them will get us nowhere. For example, if with the CMC versus, say, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. Until we found out a little more about Diamond Tiara in Season 5, it was just flat out unnatural for them to want to be friends with Diamond Tiara. It's a thing of going, oh, that's the cool girl, so I want to be cool. But is that enough? And I believe we have several films throughout history that have shown us, no. Heathers, Mean Girls, you name it. We've got plenty of them. Why do they all have mean girls, by the way?
Because girls are awful.
You were. No, I love you, man. So, the bottom line is finding that common ground. They were not going to have that common ground with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. Even if they really tried to, they just weren't the same ponies. And we didn't find out until Season 5, when we found out what drove Diamond Tiara in the end, when we found out that she wanted to be something different, that they did have something in common. And guess what? Then they could start mending it and start building a possible friendship. Granted, we have yet to see where that's going to lead us. Cannot wait to see more of that personally. But But that was the only thing that made it possible, is figuring out, you know what, there is a way of wavelength. And the bottom line is, okay, I'm ahead. So, having a common ground already, it's having blank flanks, all three of them in the CMC, that was that common ground that drove them. In the end, when they found out about Diamond Tiara and Crusaders of the Lost Mark, common thread that they could talk about. Guess what everyone in this room has? A common thread. We're all bronies!
Yay!
And that's how we unite in friendship so much stronger. Now, I want to get back to Mod Pie and talk about the common thread that brought them together, if my mouth.
Pinkie Pie, we're so sorry we hurt your feelings by not bonding with Maud right away. And Maud, we're sorry that you felt the only way to spare Pinkie Pie's feelings was to leave Ponyville early.
We've seen how much you care about Pinkie Pie. First hoof.
Pinkie Pie's happiness means as much to us as it does to you, and we're sorry we couldn't see it sooner. The thing that makes us click and creates a special bond between us is how much we all love Pinkie Pie.
Aw, shucks.
That's a pretty great thing to have in common if you ask me. What do you think, Maud?
Sure.
What's wrong? Sorry, darling. I think we all just thought you'd be a bit more excited about this. Are you kidding me? I've never seen her more excited in my entire life!
I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't show my enthusiasm for things quite in the same way my sister does.
We noticed. And we're totally cool with it.
That uniting thread that they found is how much they all cared about Pinkie Pie. And we've seen Maud now several times since that episode aired. And that common thread was a starting point. It was a starting point for them to start uniting and appreciating each other's differences. Speaking of appreciating differences, there's two ponies we've seen a lot of in the show that I would argue are rather different.
Friendship double span like that.
While it's of course easier to appreciate our similarities when making friends, it's very, very important that we appreciate each other's differences. It's exactly what we're going to do if we're going to keep friendship magic. Ah, he said it. So let's face it, AJ and Rarity are the odd couple of My Little Pony. I don't know how many of you have actually seen The Odd Couple. I really thought about putting the theme song in this as a joke, and then I realized half of my target audience wouldn't get it. But The Odd Couple was a show that just had that, and actually, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they bring it back?
They brought it back.
Yeah.
Is it any good?
Is the reboot ever good?
Yes. Yes. G4 of MLP.
Is the reboot ever good?
So
Of a live action show.
So let's look at this. We're going to look at one of the first instances where they were forced into the situation. Yeah.
Look, I'm sorry, all right?
What was that?
I said I'm sorry. I should have listened to you when you noticed where this here branch would end up. Your annoying attention to detail would have saved us from this whole mess. But right now, you need to stop being so dang fussy picking up all those little things and help me move the one big thing in here that actually matters. Please.
But I'll get all icky.
Concern it. What the... Yes, ickiness is often a side effect of hard work. But y'all need to get over it on account of I just can't fix this mess I made myself. I need your help. Better? Thanks.
A golden moment. Serious. So, in this clip, Applejack realized she couldn't solve the problem alone, and she needed help. And let's say, after a full evening of nothing but insults and arguments, this situation presented itself where she needed to transcend that. She had changed the way that she framed her request, and it had a powerful effect. So, why should we make the effort to appreciate our differences? And a lot of the answers can be found in the discussion of our favorite flank decals, cutie marks. Now, granted, we don't have cutie marks here, and I really wish we did, because honestly, it would have saved a whole lot of trouble of me trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life?
And how?
I'm 33 and I'm still figuring it out. So, sorry, this should be inspiring, it's not. But cutie marks denote what makes a pony unique from every pony else. And let's face it, what would the world be like if we were all the same?
We would be like, we saw that.
And how exciting was that village? Not very. So cutie marks denote a pony's special talent, an ability that they specialize in. As you saw in the clip, AJ could not take care of that tree by herself. She needed some pony else who had the abilities to be able to solve the problem. And that's the thing, is having a combination of different abilities with different people can make it much easier to tackle the world when you work together. Let's look at how the elements of harmony come together. There's 6 separate individual characteristics that come together to make magic, and 6 very different ponies. And yet, they come together, they appreciate each other's differences. And what does that create? Harmony! Yay. So, it's like it or not, we can't be good at everything. We can't do it alone. We actually need human contact for healthy development. There's been psychological studies done that show that having even negative interaction with other people is preferable to no interaction with other people. So if you find some pony and you are so different and you really clash at first, believe it or not, psychologically that's better than never even seeing any pony at all. It's how we grow, it's how we learn. Now granted, positive interaction I think is still the type of interaction you want for healthy development. Let me say that flat out. What do I have next on here? Uniqueness, different abilities, better problem solving, we can't be good at everything. Some pony to turn to. How many of you have been in that situation where you are stuck in your own head and you cannot figure out what to do next, how to get out of that situation?
24/7. Every day.
How many times do you think I got stuck in my own head making this panel? It's true. Having some pony else to turn to who thinks differently than you is crucial. They can look at it from a different perspective, a fresh pair of eyes, and looking at how it can be done. Do you think Applejack ever would have thought about, hey, this tree needs to be broken down into little ornamental objects? I highly doubt that. No. Only by talking to Rarity could she figure that out. So, you know, I can remember a very specific example of some pony who got trapped in her own head and needed some pony else to do something pretty drastic to get her out of it.
Why wouldn't I be?
Because you would never dress like that. You like fashion and high society and fancy things.
And I can like plowing fields and hauling apples just as much.
But you don't.
How do you know what I like?
Because I know you.
Well, maybe you don't know me as well as you think.
And I suppose it's just a coincidence that Trenderhoof seems so interested in country life too?
I don't know what you were getting at.
Well, then I guess I'll just have to show you.
Is this some kind of joke?
Why, Rarity, whatever would make you think I was joking?
Because you would never wear an ensemble like that. You like plowing fields and hauling apples.
And I can like fashion just as much. But you don't? Well, maybe you do not know me as well as you think. Fine, but I got a whole festival to plan, so if you're going to start modeling, just get on with it. Life is a festival, and you should celebrate it by looking just like me, because I'm a trend-setting fashionista. You're a trend-setting fashionista? Why, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever... Good for you. I, on the other hoof, couldn't care less how I look, long as I get the chores done. Is that so? Yes, indeedy doodle. Not me. My mane needs to be perfectly coiffed at all times. Well, my mane is full of dust and split ends. My hooves are so polished you can see your reflection in them. My hooves are cracked and dry from working in the fields. I'm so fashion forward. I wear droopy drawers. I smell like rosebuds. I love being covered in mud. Goodness, your couture! Ooh, it's bad. Will some pony bring me a towel to wipe this repulsive filth from my hooves? There's the rarity I know. Oh, Applejack. I'm sorry I said all those things. You're a true friend who probably knows me better than I know myself. I don't know what I was thinking wearing this ridiculous outfit. I kind of know how you feel. Oh, but you were just trying to help me see how silly I was being. And you were right.
So, whoever thought we were going to see Rarity like that? Let's think for a moment about how it went. We went from episode 8, where the two of them could not stand each other. They could not even bear to be in the same room for one night. That they were just about to go out into thunderous lightning to avoid being together. They went from that and those arguments that night to here, where Applejack did the one thing you thought you wouldn't see her in. She went and she became the most well-manicured, trending fashionista pony ever. And you know why she did that? She did that because Rarity was stuck in her own head. Rarity could not get over everything about Trenderhoof. And she needed this. Rarity needed some pony to do something that broke her out of it. It's often our friends who sometimes can figure those things out better than ourselves. We need to have friends who can, we have our differences. They can look at us from a different perspective and go, you know what? If I come in and I do this thing that I never normally would do, I bet you this droopy drawer wearing little farm girl will realize that's not who she is at all. So we're gonna scoot away from them for a little bit. We're gonna talk about barriers to friendship. The things that kind of make us a little more antisocial sometimes, make it a little harder to create those friendships. And I have a feeling a lot of people will relate to some of these characters. So we're gonna start with one of my absolute favorite episodes of the entire series. Mending Fences presented us with an exploration of a pony who has been burned in the past and had that resentment simmer over time.
Way back before the first episode began?
Way back.
Way back when the first episode began.
So this leads us to something that afflicts many of us, and believe it or not, that includes me, and that is social anxiety. And this is the sad portion of the program, I'm sorry. I actually suffer from clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder. Now granted, I have gotten the help that I need for it, but when I was a child, growing up through middle school and high school, this was traumatizing to me. I was always the nerd that was picked on. I was always the one that was sitting alone in the lunchroom. I had this. And this was the 90s. We didn't talk as much about mental health then as we do now. We didn't appreciate the fact of what social anxiety can do to a person. Moon Dancer was burned. She felt. We know that Twilight had no other choice. Twilight had something that she had to do. She needed to go do it right away. She knew that. She didn't even think about what that would do to Moon Dancer. Moon Dancer went within herself and could not bring herself to interact with other ponies. So I can guarantee that either you or someone you know has probably had a similar reaction to this in your own head. This effect is known as the illusion of transparency. I put the names out there to give them credit. I don't know how to pronounce them and I will butcher it. So, they're there. These are the wonderful two people who came up with this. So, illusion of transparency, this works in two ways with people. Any pony ever feel like you were in a room and you were invisible to everyone? Nobody saw you. There's a converse to that. Any pony ever been in a room and feel like everybody is staring at you? Like no matter what you do, every pony's going to notice it. That is this effect right here, illusion of transparency, where you have a heightened sense of what everyone else is thinking about you. A lot of people try to say, I don't care what other people think about me.
Crap. Yeah, you do.
Probably do. I know I do, and I get in my own head sometimes. And people with social anxiety, it's that much more compounded. I mean, look at those clips of Fluttershy. Let's think back to Philly Vanilli, for example. When all eyes were upon her, even though every pony loved what she was doing, she could not bear to even recognize it. She had this illusion of what it is, what everybody was doing. So, with the illusion of transparency, so if you feel like nobody notices you, you're going to get down on yourself. You're going to feel like nobody cares. You're not going to make that effort to make friends because why do they care about me? They aren't even seeing me. Converse, when you think everybody has their eyes all over you, you're being judged too much. These people are too critical, too harsh. I can't deal with this. And I've had that happen with me. I went to a grocery store one time, and there were people taking donations for something out there. And this guy, I was really like, it took all the courage I had to get out of the house that day. I will tell you. I didn't even want to go, but I needed groceries. And this guy just approached me really innocently and was like, oh, getting some groceries today. And I was like, yes. Snapped on this poor guy who was like, are you just getting groceries because they were taking donations and just letting me know before my trip? And I lost it. Just from that. I pretty much went in the store and just about cried after that. And this happens. This is real. People with a strong generalized anxiety or social anxiety, this happens to them. So, don't take it too personally. This does happen. So, how do we make sure to include these wonderful people who are simply uncomfortable being foisted into these situations? Let's take a look.
You're right. This party can't make up for the way I hurt you. But please, don't let my mistake be the reason you can't be friends with any pony else.
We were your friends then, and we'd be honored to be your friends now.
What? That's the librarian, the bookseller, my sister.
You've got a lot of friends, Moon Dancer.
I'm sorry, Moon Dancer. I've faced magical creatures, the end of Equestria, all sorts of things. But seeing how my actions affected you, That was one of the worst feelings I've ever had.
Thank you, Twilight. I never realized how much I needed to hear that.
If you didn't go awed that scene when you first saw it, you're terrible.
You were dead inside.
That was anyone else, who loves amending fences? One of my favorite episodes of the entire series. Because let's face it, Twilight really didn't do anything wrong, technically. She had to go save all of Equestria. But, you know, when you look at this, despite that, she recognized that what she did had an adverse effect on some pony else, what we call a latent function, or I should say a dysfunction. So, what she does is she keeps having gentle nudges. Now, at first, honestly, those nudges are not so gentle, hence appearing in a book. I would love to appear in a book. And that's what she did in that clip. When we got to that clip, Moon Dancer was flipping out on her. She's like, "You weren't there." She was losing it, she was crying, and Twilight saw that. And what she did, she went up, she explained it. She knew what happened, she apologized, she said how she felt about the situation and what it meant to her. You may move it wherever, honey. So, always be honest with your friends. Your friends will appreciate honesty. Applejack is not a background pony because we need honesty in the main six.
Exactly.
So,
Applejack is best background.
Dude. So, I have one more pony I want to talk with you guys about along this line. So, that pony is...
Luna?
So, as we all know, Luna had to fight an uphill battle for acceptance after being defeated as Nightmare Moon. In Luna Eclipse, she had overcome a community who was frightened by her very existence and appearance. So, what we're going to talk about with Luna, and I hope a lot of you got the same message from this episode as me.
I think it's feeding off your guilt, Princess Luna.
If that is so, then perhaps that is how it grew strong enough to escape in the first place.
Say what now?
I created the Tandibus to give myself the same nightmare every night. To punish myself for the evil I caused as Nightmare Moon.
But why would you do that?
To make sure I never forgave myself for how much Equestria suffered because of me. But it seems I have not learned my lesson. For now I have only made you suffer more.
We're going to talk about self-harm a little bit. That episode had such a strong metaphor for self-harm. Because let's face it, Luna could not forgive herself over what she did as Nightmare Moon. And what did she do? She had to do something. She created the Tantibus to basically terrorize her every, I was going to say night, sleep is the day?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so every day in her dreams, she would take this in. She caused harm to herself on a daily basis because she couldn't get over this. So, a little bit about stigma versus reality with self-harm. There's a lot of research actually into self-harm, and there's not a solid conclusion on, on total motivation across the board. It's going to vary person to person, pony to pony. The one thing that is clear is there is a stigma that people that harm themselves are doing it for attention. And I'd like to talk about that quick, because while there might be a couple people that maybe would do that, that is not the reality for the most part. A lot of times these are people who are suffering, who need an outlet, and they are taking it in varied forms. Granted, I'm not an expert on this stuff. If If you know somebody who is doing something to harm themselves, I highly encourage you, seek professionals, seek professional help. I've known friends who have threatened violence against themselves. I've been in a dark place myself, and it is not a fun place to be. It is not. So what this comes from, especially with Luna, is it's her coping mechanism. Luna holds on to a lot of shame and guilt from what she did. She is constantly beating herself up. We don't get to see her shine that much in the series, but when we do, there is that. And Luna eclipsed. She wanted so badly to get by it, and she felt like she can't. She can't get by this. It's still in her. It's still part of her identity to her. There is a theory by a man named Merton originally about general strain theory, about essentially all of these strains that get put on you will do more and more. Now, a lot of people actually take this and put it in criminology terms. But when I looked at this, I thought about the fact of not everybody acts out against society. Some people take it within, act upon themselves. And that's what we see with Luna. Luna's pain came from what she did. She owns up to that. She knows it. She doesn't want to ever go back there. She doesn't ever want to hurt another pony again. And that is her greatest fear in that episode of Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep. She is so afraid of what she might do that would hurt any pony else. She would rather take all the pain within. And it took the main six to talk her down from that plateau. Depression is another thing. I mentioned earlier that I do suffer from clinical depression. Another thing, if you were a friend, you suspect a friend, seek professional help. Some people need, it's a very broad illness, mental illness. Some people do great on medication. Some medications don't work on people, and they just need to go talk to somebody, talk to a mental health professional. If you truly believe, if you're ever thinking of hurting yourself, and you feel that down and depressed, I encourage you, talk to a friend, don't be afraid to go seek help. It is the greatest disservice we do to our society, is we put a stigma on mental health. And this stigma keeps people from getting the help that they need. For a lot of people, depression is a chemical imbalance in your brain. How can you say that you're a horrible person just because you got a chemical imbalance? It does not determine who you are. If anything, all that does is prevent you from being the person that you could be. You all can be as great as you want to be. Believe in yourself. I believe in all of you. I know it's sappy, but I really do. I believe in this community, dang it. Come on, come on. Who believes in the power of bronies? Yeah! It's my Michael Dobson for you. So, let's see how this all...
Then, my creation is about to turn the world into a living nightmare!
But look at what you're doing! Nightmare Moon would have wanted the Tantibus to turn Equestria into a nightmare. You're doing everything you can to stop it. Don't you see? That proves you're not the same pony you were then. Every pony who knows you knows that Nightmare Moon is in the past. We all trust you, Luna. Do you trust us enough to believe we're right?
I do.
We trust you, Luna. Do you trust in us? To trust in yourself.
Believe in the ponies who believe in you.
Exactly. Thank you. I don't dislike you anymore. Okay, no, I don't. No, but seriously, that scene, that episode, truly moved me personally. as somebody who's dealt with those thoughts inside, has dealt with that guilt, I've had really ridiculous feelings of guilt. I had ridiculous feelings of guilt of like when I was a kid and I peed my pants in school, you know? And you know what? That carried into my late teens, into my 20s, and I still felt guilt about that. I still felt like less of a person. And I mean, I'm not gonna ever toot my own horn. I'm not perfect. I mean, you all think I'm a bad person? And eventually, and it took me a while, and you know what helped me in the end really get to that point where I'm a great person? All of you guys. Because I have a community that believes in me. Aw. You guys do? Wait, I gotta do it. Steven, I love you. So, listen to your friends. If you've made true friends, they want the best for you. Listen to what they have to say. Appreciate the differences. Talk to one another. Get another point of view. If you need to talk to somebody in a professional, don't be afraid, because your friends, your true friends, will always be there through that. They will support you. They will be there for you. You know, about 6 years ago, I finally saw a doctor and got the meds that I needed to fix my chemical imbalance. And that's why I am here today. That's why I survived it. That's how I got through it. And that's how I found magic. I found friendship. I found the power to believe in myself. And that's what brought me to start this project and get here today. So, let's wrap up a little. Let's figure out keeping friendship. How to keep friendship magic. Show your support to your friends at all times. You know, you're always going to have differences with your friends, and sometimes they might tick you off. And in this fandom, let's be real. Let's be real. How many of you have been in a best pony argument, or a best princess argument, or that episode is horrible argument? I heard some pony earlier say that they really hated the Breezy's episode, and I was like, I love it. But you know what? That's okay. We're entitled to our own opinions. I have my reasons that I really like it, and they have their reasons that they don't. And our opinions are valid. That being said, come watch me at 8 o'clock tonight in this very room quibble about the things in pony. But look at this. Remember how Moondancer started opening up the Twilight? She started opening up when Twilight gave that nudge. She started talking to her about Haycart's method. She found that common bond. She found a reason to give, she found a way to give Moondancer a reason to break out. Constant gentle nudges, constant support. Be there. Sometimes it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I was a jerk for a while because I went within myself and I couldn't bring myself. You know, I always felt like I was a good person in doing things right. Honestly, for those of you who are Peanuts fans, I'm a giant Peanuts fan, and I felt like Charlie Brown. Somebody who really never does the wrong thing from a social standpoint, but you know what? He always got crapped on, we'll just say. Keep it family friendly. But society did that to him. And that was one of those things, you know? It just kept on going and kept on going. But if any of you saw the Peanuts movie, what did they do at the end? They lifted him up as a group and celebrated him. It was on TV last night, so that's why it's in my head. With that being said, please, Everypony, keep friendship magic. My name is Forrest Progress. I have business cards if you want. If you can't stand to hear me, that's okay too. But thank you all for attending. I sincerely love you all. If you have any questions, come find me. I will be here all week.